Coming up this week on the Afro Journal.
So the reason why I chose the name Akamai is because I think music, Akamai means genius in Hawaiian. Yeah. Now, I don't think I'm a genius. I think I'm a very smart kid. I think I'm very open-minded and insightful, but I think music is genius because it's this art form where, you don't have to know my story. You don't have to know where I am, but I can take you there. You don't have to know how I feel, but I'll make you feel it. You don't have to know what time period I'm from, but I'll bring you back there. Music can make you time travel. It can make you sad, happy. It can give you confidence to persevere. Yeah. Anything that can give you that without you actually having to be in front of a person or without you actually having to do anything other than just listen. To me, that's genius.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Afro Journal podcast, where we bridge the gap between the diaspora and the continent through open dialogue, shared experiences, and good vibes. Today, we have another
anger.
As you guys know, we have a special guest with us. Another Nigerian. I think this is a Nigerian podcast, honestly. Let's be honest with ourselves.
So I should.
But before we get there, no. You're honorable Nigerian. You're an honorable Nigerian.
I don't claim that.
We accept you, Bole. All right.
It's okay. I'll stay Cameroonian.
It's all right. Well, it's your boy, your extra luggage, Chef Pirero, Peter AKA Chikem Chibuzo, Aliogo Jr.
It's your glazed chocolate donut. I don't claim Nigerian. Cameroonian queen. Bole Akume.
And it's your vintage chocolates. Some people call me the toasted caramel. Chisom, AGK, Jeremiah, Okafor.
Killing me.
We got the nicknames, of course. We're Nigerian boys, actually West African boys and girls. Let me just be neutral.
Let's be inclusive.
Yeah.
Let me be inclusive. But we have a special guest with us. Another banger. Let him introduce himself. Let me not just, bust him up. Let me not bust his brain. Let him introduce himself. Then I can rant for a little bit.
I appreciate that, man. What's going on, guys? It's Obi, AKA Akamai, AKA the Spacerapper. AKA, Obi Winego. That's what they call me.
Obi Winego.
I don't know about that one, though.
All right. So, we can just give a brief introduction of how we met him. We know Obi from school, WPI. Our connections are deep there. We got deep pockets at WPI. We have all the connections. But, yeah, that's where we met him. And he's really close friends of ours. And we just wanted to have him on the podcast and let him introduce himself. And so, we can talk about basically your whole journey through that whole process of becoming, coming to WPI as a basketballer, to do college basketball, then becoming an engineer, then you turned into a consultant. Can you just start with that whole story?
Yeah. Where do I start?
Just talk about, you being a 6'9" boy, skinny, entry in college.
Was he born 6'9"?
No, I think so. I think my sister was actually the heaviest of the four of us.
Really?
So yeah, I think I might have been maybe second or something like that.
Yeah.
But,
how many are you guys?
We got 3, not including myself, so 4 total. 3 boys, 1 girl. She's the youngest, so obviously we take care of her.
Wow.
She's the princess.
Are you the oldest?
As you should.
I am the middle child, which means I get away with a lot of shit.
I thought you get away with the least amount of shit.
No, the oldest child. No,
I was middle child, yeah.
No, I think my parents experimented with me because, I got to live off campus. I got to go to the private college.
Wow.
Yeah. They just let me do whatever.
Actually, that's true. That's true. Well, I felt that, you never could get your way because you're not the last and you're not the first, if that makes sense. Because when you're fighting with the first, you're looking at, if that's the oldest, you want to respect the oldest. But when you're fighting with the youngest, how can you be fighting the youngest? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think it's different when you got an older brother because I would never fight with my sister for any reason. You know what I mean? Although I think we used to tease her though, for sure. But
100%.
Yeah, but I wasn't gonna fight with my. Actually, did we fight? No, we definitely fought. Actually, let me not cap. Yeah, me and my.
I was like, wait, what was the age difference between you guys?
It's all relatively close. So I'm 95. My older brother's 94. My younger brother's 97, and my sister's 99.
Oh yeah, that's hella close.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
close. It's kind of similar to my house
Yeah,
as
you're
well.
definitely going to fight if you're all that close.
Yeah.
Like from top
You
to
have
bottom.
to.
From
Yeah.
top to- I mean, that's
Oh.
cool. That's cool. That's cool. So, but let's get right into your experience of entering WPI. You know, like how did you get into that basketball situation at WPI?
Yeah, so I actually didn't know the school at all until my senior year.
A lot of us
Um,
didn't.
Yeah, I was so I think a lot of people in high school really focused a lot on the college process.
Mm-hmm.
I was not that person.
Oh, okay.
I played basketball. That was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a basketball player.
Was it your dad that got you into basketball, or was it something that you did by yourself?
I don't know which came first. We played soccer for the longest time, and then
Yeah.
I just remember like we would take
You
the
passed the
bus
height
to
limit.
school. No, I don't even think it was that. We took the bus to school, like me and my sibs, and then we would go to my cousin's house, and he had a basketball hoop. And we would all just play outdoors, and I could not shoot to save my life. I kept on shooting the ball over the hoop. I remember that. That was so embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, then my cousin, he actually made it to the NBA in 2004. His name's Emeka Okafor. He was the second picked behind Dwight Howard. in
Oh,
the
so I
draft.
know him then. I mean, I know of him, not like I know him personally.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was like your
That's
direct
crazy.
cousin.
My grandfather's brother is his grandfather, so I guess he's like a second cousin.
Yeah,
Cousin.
second cousin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger things.
Okay.
And it was his house you were going to play basketball.
No.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to my like actual cousin's house.
Okay.
I just remember he got into the league, and then my dad came home and was like, "You guys should stop playing basketball. Basically, you guys should start taking it seriously because." I mean, I don't know. He was a lottery pick, so I'm sure his first contract was like
Was fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. I don't know what
Yeah.
it was back then because that was before the NBA signed the whole like media bargaining agreement or something. I forget what they call it, but
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I know, like African dads, once they see opportunity, man, they're like, I have long boys at this house. You
that's
guys
what I'm
can bounce.
saying. That's what
You
it's,
guys can definitely bounce ball.
it's funny. It's actually kind of funny because he always used to. I mean, even after that, he would always preach like, focus on your books, focus on your books, focus on your books. But then like. If we had like a big game or whatever, he would get really
Focus
excited,
on the ball.
which was
Focus
kind
on
of
the ball.
funny.
Yeah, they'll definitely trade you to do both and everything. I know my parents were mostly, cause I wanted to be a footballer, like a soccer player when I was growing up, and they knew I had the talent. But they were just like, which was cap? They knew it was clear. Everyone saw it. Everyone once you see me as a kid, you knew that this guy was destined for greatness.
Yeah, sure.
But they were always like, nah, bro. Like, you have more opportunities. They think that people that go that route are people that are less privileged. So you have to go the straight and
Actually,
narrow
that's
path.
very true too. Yeah,
And
that's
like
very
just
true.
go study, become your engineer, or like do your
Doctor.
thing, make your money,
Yeah.
all that. You don't need to go and start gambling to hopefully get picked. But man, the whole time they liked my talent, but they were just like, nah, bruh. Go to
Yeah, my
school,
parents
fam."
didn't even see my talent. They were like, yo.
I mean, you didn't have it, fam. It's alright.
Chisom, that's not true. Let's be honest. Let's be
Like,
honest. That's
Everyone
not
can be
true.
Ronaldo and Messi, like me. Come on.
That's not true. I had quite the assets of skills and physicality. But my dad was a banker. He was never interested in all this nonsense. My mom was never interested in sports. So it was basically just me by myself on an island, just trying to see if this thing was going to work. But it is what it is. I mean, shout out to my son. He's going to be playing for Real Madrid one day. That's how I see it. That is how I see it.
Yeah.
All right, so Obi, let's move to like you actually get into WPI and just briefly talk about that whole transition from engineering to consulting.
Yeah, I have to backtrack a little bit because you guys have been saying consulting for a while, and I'm like, why? Like, when did I get into consulting like full time? I don't do full time consulting.
Okay.
I did.
So
I was a consultant for a company called Endoka for some time. And they needed like a marketing consultant to basically help them make a market over in the East Coast. And so that's what me and a team of other consultants who they hired did. And that was like a friend of mine reached out to me he actually went to Clark University. We did music together. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I think you'd be perfect for this because of your startup experience. I had a small business in college called Tech Bros. Hopefully, you guys remember that name.
I do remember that.
I
where you used to
remember.
fix- you
I was
used
a
to fix
customer.
phones online.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to fix phones and stuff. I remember.
Yeah. So I had some marketing experience from that, and so they just brought me in, and it was kind of the weirdest, like, it was just a really weird kind of onboarding experience. These guys were from Europe, so there was like cultural differences, and like they did things very, I mean, I guess it was like, typical startup environment, very fast and kind of not structured, which I kind of liked. For me, the reason I liked it compared to engineering was because, so when you're doing engineering at a big company,
Yeah.
like most of the jobs are so processed down that there really isn't that much room for creativity. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yep.
Like you're gonna work like a design change, and the system requirements are already there, so you're literally just like pushing buttons, or you're
Yeah,
like,
plugging in numbers, basically.
exactly. So like to me, that's not why I went to school. I like coming up with something from like nothing and then figuring out how to make it happen. Like we're actually working the engineering process is what I thought I'd be doing in industry.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't the case. So, I actually figured that out by my second internship with the company I was with, who I'll leave out, but it's in aerospace. And so then I moved on to the business side of that group and worked on like marketing, business development, program management, and like industrial engineering, which I realized, wow, I should have done that in college. That's a cheat code. If you got an industrial engineering degree, you shouldn't have engineer next to your name. But it's okay. That's how the world
Say you
works.
shouldn't.
They don't do any engineering. Do you know an industrial that does engineering? These guys are looking at they're looking at data all day for the most part. They're putting together flow diagrams. They're talking with suppliers. They're not actually doing engineering. That's kind of like saying you're a sales engineer. What are you engineering, my friend? What are you doing?
What did you do?
That's so seriously,
Yeah.
So
All right. So pretty much. So what you're saying is that like there was a side of you that always thought that engineering was. I feel like I can relate to that though. Like as a child, I thought that when you think about like, oh, I want to build cars, I want to build houses, I want to build bridges, I want to do all these things. That's what we think engineering is, which it is, right? That's what engineering actually is. But then we know that for most engineers, they are working under a system that's already in place, right? So they already have the manufacturing plants. All you have to do is come in and make sure that all that is running smoothly. If there's trouble, then you troubleshoot.
yeah.
But I do hear what you're saying though, like when it comes to like creativity and all that, like depending on obviously what you're doing, there's no real like I think that's also why you say you like the startup environment, because startups, that's where you see a lot of, because they're trying to invent something new, or you're trying to solve a problem that has not necessarily been solved the way you think you can solve it. So obviously there's a lot of room there for creativity, which makes sense. So let me just backtrack back to high school. Right, when you were in high school and you were saying, okay, I want to be an engineer, was that your reasoning? Like, it's kind of like you thought you were going to be able to use your creative juices. Kind of assuming that, because we're going to get to your musical side later on down the road, right? But yeah, definitely very, like, Obi is a creative guy. This guy is always like in school, this guy was just always like, it's so weird. Like, I always thought you were just the basketball guy, but then when I talked to you a lot more, then I just realized how much of everything you know, which is something that I thought was very dope. Like, this guy can talk about almost anything with anybody, which is like dope. So go back to high school.
Yeah.
Was your plan to, like, was it your dad that pushed you towards engineering, or was it you that kind of chose that path for yourself, hoping that you could do that in combined with basketball?
So,
or your mom, actually?
Well, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but African parents, my parents at least, they gave us three choices. They said you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, or you can be an engineer.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't really care for rules, so I wasn't gonna do law. And I was not that great at memorization, so I probably couldn't be a doctor. I did like tinkering with things. Like, I liked understanding how things work. And so
shout out to how it's made.
Yeah. And so I took a physics class like my freshman year. Yeah. And that was like, physics is basically like the study of how stuff works in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
how stuff moves in
like
an
how
environment.
forces interact with each other. And actually, it's a very interesting subject. Like, I could have been a straight up physicist if I wanted to. That was my best subject in school. And I really enjoyed that subject. And so when I was looking at, what degree do I actually want to major in, I said engineer because in my mind I'm like, well, I like physics, and in my physics class we got to build speakers, and I like building speakers. I like, we built rockets. I like building rockets. Like I like doing stuff like that, So I thought that if I say I'm going to do engineering, then yeah, you'll end up doing that kind of stuff.
Nuts.
Which I'm sure there are lots of people that do it, but really like the I don't know. I think like, being on like the research side of engineering is probably very interesting, and then if you're in new product development, that's also very interesting. But a lot of the engineering jobs are, at least at the companies I was looking at, because I'm fascinated with aerospace. I've always have been. Like a lot of the innovation is in fuel efficiency, which, that's more. I mean, there's
chemical.
definitely some. There's chemical involved there. They're looking at alternative fuels. There's some materials involved in that. But I to be honest with you, materials was a class that I was originally not good at. But the teacher was such a great teacher, and she didn't want people to fail. I can't remember her name. She was a great teacher, and materials is interesting, but definitely not something that I would look forward to going into an office to do every day. So yeah, but anyway, so I mean it was kind of like I personally, if you asked me like my senior year, do I think I'm gonna be an engineer? I would have told you no. I think I'm gonna play D3 for a year, then go D1. That's what I thought.
So that was the original plan. So come to WPI, play basketball D3 for a while, and then transfer to a D1 school. Yeah,
because the thing is, like, I don't even know if it happened at the time yet. It may have already happened. I don't know. But I played with Middlesex Magic for my AAU team. And when I think it was my junior year. It was my junior year. One of the guys that I played up. So I was playing on the upper team, the upper level team. And one of the guys on that team's name was Duncan Robinson. Now he plays on
I know Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson,
from the Heat, Miami Heat.
Yeah. So I don't even know like the timing of this, but like at some point, like he was at Williams, and then he went to Michigan. Yeah. So in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna go D3, then go D1.
Oh, okay.
And it just did not play out that way.
It'd be like that.
Yeah.
All right. So was there a reason it didn't play out that way? Like, was it more like you not being interested anymore, or were there other things that kind of happened?
Factors.
I think there's like a lot of things I could point to. Ultimately, I guess I just didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah.
I have friends, people that I played with, people that I wouldn't say friends, but people that I know, acquaintances that like went the distance and like are playing in the league now. And they had a different approach and mentality when it came to like practice, like, out of practice workouts, going the extra mile, like mentally preparing, watching film, like they lived and breathed
basketball,
sport, basketball or football, because it was their passion. I mean, I guess I didn't know it at the time. Like part of the reason I stopped playing in college was simply because it's hard to like play and practice that much. And you have no fans. I mean, like that was such a big deal for me. Like it was tough. Like they would have robotics competitions, and the gym would be. You saw the gym.
Shout out to WPI.
It would be filled, and I'm sitting here like, where are y'all when we're playing? Like y'all don't like us, and so
WPI does not give a shit about sports.
We're going to a nerd school, man.
Yeah,
bro. I didn't think it was gonna be honestly like because the whole college process for me, I didn't even really tour campuses like that. You know what I mean? Like some people, like their parents will take them, go tour this place, go tour that place. Like no, like if the coaches didn't approach me and say you should come, I didn't go. Like I didn't have an active role. I was literally looking for, I see how much your tuition is. Facts. How much are you going to make me pay? That was the only thing I really cared about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my parents told me, you're not, they told me we're not rich. Actually what they said was we're rich, we just don't have that much money. And so we're not going to be footing any crazy bills. So you're either going to get like a, good package, or you're going to go to state school, which I personally considered at the time going to state school. Like I kind of considered that like failing. Which it's not. It really isn't. There's nothing wrong with state school.
Yeah, there's always that. I think it's because of the pressure that African parents put on us and the idea of what success is. And if you don't meet that success, your community kind of rejects you.
Yeah. I
And
remember
that-
when I knew
yeah.
I wasn't going to Harvard and how shit. You know how that is. They're like, Obi, did you apply to Harvard? I said, I didn't apply to Harvard.
Yeah.
Why didn't you apply to? I didn't want to waste my time. Because like Harvard requires a certain SAT score. I don't know what my SAT score was. Like, you forget things that aren't like that great in your life.
I'm dead. I didn't. I think I only had like the math sides of the SAT score down,
Yeah.
but in terms of the like writing and like
The
what did
English.
you I want
English was
reading
my
and
shit.
my
The
English
reading,
was
yeah.
complete like it was basically buck average. That was the English
Yeah.
like around 500. And
Like-
like there was no, I was just like, bro, I'm not applying to no fucking MIT. Like, I'm just gonna
That's
waste
what
my
I
time.
said. Like at MIT they required you to take like a SAT 2, I think, or some other
The
test.
subject test.
Yeah, and I'm
subject
sitting
one,
here
yeah.
like, you want me to? I started it and I walked out during the test, like literally on some movie. Because in my mind, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you're not gonna be able to answer. Like I'm looking, it's like the first 2 pages. And you know how like they tell you to do this with books. Like you take a book and if you read the book and you like find like 8 words you don't know in the first like 2 pages, then you should probably put it down.
Yeah.
It was like that, but for the test. I'm looking at the test and I'm like, give me an easy one to like start with. Couldn't find any. And I'm sitting here like, I'm just gonna waste my time. Like everyone else is grinding away, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to MIT anyway. Let me just go. And so I left.
Yeah, I mean, we normally console ourselves with WPI saying that we're MIT's rival.
Well, we're
You
the
know,
rejects.
Or,
That's what we are.
or the MIT rejects.
Yeah. I mean, I actually applied to MIT too this for my grad, and yeah, they rejected me again. So it is what it is.
Proper
It's
reject.
okay,
fam.
Twice.
Shout out to Georgia Tech though. We ate it. We ate it.
Yeah, all right.
I
So
can't
like,
imagine that.
okay, so you talked about like there not being fans. I mean, Peter, did you go to basketball games at WPI?
I was never interested. I didn't watch any sports at WPI. I was like, what am I going to go see there?
Man, y'all should have
Yeah.
seen my high school. My high school, shout out to Brookline High School, by the way. Those were the best fans I ever had.
Wait,
in
what
my
high school was that?
entire-
Yeah, what type of like
Brookline High
environment was
School.
it?
It was crazy. Like fans got thrown out of the games. Like,
Wow.
like they had the fire marshal come because the building was at capacity. We had like the band. The announcer was actually like saying people's names kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was like the
Wow.
other team's fans would come and our fans would go at their, like we had like, this was terrible, but there was a guy, he was a really good shooter. And when he was shooting free throws, our fan section found a picture of his little sister. I kid you not.
Oh my god.
And blew it up and were like holding it up like this while he's shooting. And I'm sitting here like, this is the best gym I've ever played in. Like, this is crazy. This is, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get to, like, you'll never get to do that again. Most people will never get to do that
Yeah.
again. I'm just grateful for the memories. They gave me a fat head. I got like, I got a fat head. And like back then, if you were like, if you had like a girl or whatever, you could give her your away jersey at the game. And so like, that was kind of cool too, you know?
Yeah. You know what's funny? I can actually relate to that. We athletes, as your fellow athletes, I can relate to that.
This is a claimer. That's what
Let me
it
tell you
is.
this. Let me
You are
tell
a
you
claimer.
let me tell you this story. Because in secondary school, if you make the school team, right, it's only a few people that make the school team, and obviously it's when you're in SS3, which is grade 12, or SS. Maybe the lowest guy that made the school team was in SS1 or GS3, and that's like
So
the elite guys.
what you're saying? Yeah,
Year 10,
nine,
year 10, year 9. Year 9,
Yeah.
if you're in the school team at year 9, that means you're just like,
AG.
you're just
You're a baller.
supernatural talent. You get what I'm saying? But when I was on the school team, so I got into the school team when I was in grade 11, right? Obviously, and then grade 12, I was obviously in the school team. I was one of the best in my set. It is what it is. So when we get our jerseys, girls will now be hustling for, like, so that they can get our jerseys, things like that, So we'll now be giving them our jerseys sometimes here and there, things like that. Like, that was actually a cool thing, like, back in the day. So, yeah, like, actually, but the thing is that the way we did it, though, was you give it to your girl. But because me, I didn't have a girl, girls are hustling for me, Like,
I'm dead.
they were hustling to me like, yo, like, can I get jersey?
We definitely had some of that. I was definitely not like the guy that had, all the, there were definitely other people on the team that had it like that though, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, I'm not saying that I was one of the coolest guys in school or anything, right? But just by virtue of my position, it wasn't like my swag or anything. It was just more like I was
had
single.
power.
If I had a girl, obviously they know that my jersey is going to that girl. But since I don't have a girl, The jersey is open. There's an opening there. Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. I mean, I never had that kind of experiences.
No, literally.
Yeah, but I mean, people wanted my shirt because I'm
Bole,
a
did you
fine
collect
boy.
people's jerseys?
Did I what?
That's
No,
what's
no,
up.
no. I was
No?
wholesome. I'm
You're
wholesome.
yeah.
Bole did not even
I'm
go.
still
like,
wholesome.
Bole was out here
Go to the
chilling.
games. Bole was at
Bole
home.
was
She was in her
out here
house.
chilling. She was like, "Yeah, I have my boyfriend
no,
already.
let's
What am
say I
I
leave the
going to a
house."
basketball game for?" We wanted to just talk a little bit about now your, like how you identify, because we know you're Nigerian, but you also grew up in the United States. Can you describe your experiences being from both an African household and living in the US? And like, did you ever go back home? It's like do you speak your language? Is there a strong connection to
Were
your
you born
African?
here or there?
Yeah.
So I was born in Boston. The connection, I mean, it's strong as hell. Like you grow up in a Nigerian household, it's just you can't really call yourself full on American because I just see the world so differently. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The first time I went home was 2002. So the year after 9/11, man, that was such a culture shock. Like there were some things that I just wasn't even prepared for. I remember, and this is how messed up like the media here is. I remember like walking on the sidewalk at one point and seeing like a bunch of like, black people walking towards me. And like
In Nigeria.
yeah, and I remember like, at the bus stop that I used to get dropped off at, like, you would want to avoid groups like that were like older, dressed a certain way because you would think like, oh, you might get jumped, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then like I remember being like a little shook, and then my uncle was with me and he was like, bro, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I just feel like, he's like, bro, you're in Africa, man. Relax. Everyone's black. And I remember, and I'm like, I'm a kid, and I remember just being like, wow, like that's kind of weird that like I think of it that way, because like the media and here associates like black with dangers, you know what I mean? So my first initial impression was like, am I safe? And then it was like, yeah, you are. And then like once you get over that, like for me, like once I got over that little like, bout of uncomfortability, which lasted all about 20 minutes, I just felt like this place is where I'm supposed to be, kind of like this is home, like, you know what I mean? Like everything just makes sense. Like the way I react to things, the way I like want to like talk about something, even like, for instance, like it's like you see it like in social interaction, like you want to go talk to a girl in America, there's like a way that it's like societally acceptable for you to do it. And I'm not saying you're not gonna go grab someone, that's not it. But like, there's just like some jokes you can crack and say, and it's like they get it because they were also raised that way. So like it hits them. I like to imagine that like Latin Americans understand what I'm talking about too, because like they literally only speak in Spanish because it's probably they just that's just how they feel. You know what I mean? And like one of the biggest issues, or like I wouldn't call it an issue, but one of the things that I regret the most is that I don't know Igbo perfectly, because I actually think it sounds like a love language to me personally. Like the way we say things.
When they butter you up,
like it just, that's what I'm saying. Like it sounds so beautiful. And at the same time, when you're tearing someone down, it's so freaking, man, I can't think of a better language to rush on someone like, oh my goodness. Walking to fuck off. I remember like, you can say whatever to someone and it's like, it's just so much more emphasis, and here it's just kind of like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. Like that doesn't sound nearly as like,
expressive.
It doesn't get the point across to me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, this gentleman is annoyed and he's saying it in a weird way. You know what I mean? That's how I like take that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I identify as, I identify as Obi Akamai. Like for me, that's how I identify, because I feel like my experience has been so unique. And I don't know if it actually has been unique because I don't talk to people that much about it, but I'm sure there's lots of other people that have had my share. Pretty much anyone that's first generation probably can relate with like, I'm not quite Black American, not quite Nigerian because I didn't grow up there, not quite American because like, the system doesn't really work for people like me. So then I'm kind of just me, you know what I mean? And like,
you're in the diaspora.
Like I kind of feel like I can connect and vibe with a lot of different energies and people because I was never like, fully like
immersed in one single bubble.
Yeah, so like I always move around. Like I always used to tell my friends and my brothers this, like if I ever had like an event where all my friends came to one place, I don't even know how people would like. It would just be the most random collection of people.
Oh my gosh! Me and Obi are speaking the same language.
Like,
literally, you can ask them, like, the people I'm friends with, just random as hell. Like, all across the whole world too as well. Like, I don't have any like ethnic, like, or like I just hang around with black people. I just hang around with, you know, people who play soccer. I hang around with everyone. And you know, because I see like parts of the culture I can relate to, and parts of stuff that I can discuss with them. So it's just a vibe, basically, what I'm trying to say, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it's like, for me, it's intellectuals and creatives for the most part. And I think they go hand in hand, right? Like I believe that there are like two mindsets. You've got like survival mindset and you've got the creator mindset. I think when humans are creating, they're like the truest form of themselves, right? So like when you're doing whatever it is you're passionate about, when you're making something from nothing, when you're taking like the inner world and trying to manifest it into the real world, whether that be making yourself a pro soccer player or trying an art piece or whatever, you're acting more like yourself and you have a lot to offer and think about on that subject, whatever it is you're doing. And
struggle with, if that makes sense. So it is a struggle at the end of the day. All right, beautiful. Chisom, do you want to go into the next topic?
No, that makes sense. So, I mean, I was going to ask, so when you came to college, right, like, how did that kind of shape, I guess, your upbringing shape the people that you hung around with? Because I'll say, like, you were obviously, like, a president in school all the time. You know, you had the literally tall-ass Nigerian kids. Like, no one can miss you. But
I mean, tall black kid, that's what we knew as. But like when we got to know you personally, it was like Nigerian, if that makes sense. I
mean, once I saw his name, I knew he was Nigerian.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Like I did like much. You get what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, you were there and we didn't miss you, but then at the same time, you're also very scarce in school. So how did your upbringing, like what you just described, shape the people that you hung around with or the things that you did? Because I would say you were very involved in like the black community in WPI, you know, in a sense.
Yeah. For the first 2 years of school, I was basketball. And I think that basically shaped who I hung out with, what I did. You know, the basketball team, like any team that you come into at the lower level, right, and you show promise. Like I was Rookie of the Year, although, you know, there might have been people that were more deserving of it. I think they saw potential in me, which was a great kind of sign and a good nod. But like, you know, those systems, there's usually like there's a whole community around it, right? Like the basketball people are really on good terms with like these other social groups, whether it was a fraternity, whether it was like, I don't know, like this part of like, you know, this area, Dean Street, where we party or whatever. Yeah. You know, it was like that basically dictated like my social circles. Now, the other thing that I'll say is like, you know, bless the folks at WPI. Like, there were really 3 tall black kids at WPI while I was at 4. There was Drew, Clyde, Marlon, and myself. Yeah. And, like, on any given day, I could be mistaken for any of those guys. So people would think that they had met me. And, like, they would swear that they had whole conversations with me. And I would just be going along, like, you know, they seem sure of it, you know? Like, they seem adamant. Maybe I was just drunk. Maybe I just genuinely don't remember. I meet so many people. Because when you're a certain height, people just, like, they, like, come up to you and they ask you, like, you know, questions about being tall, which are not really memorable questions because everyone asks you that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, like, doesn't make you a memorable person. So you
I
tend to
feel that that's
those
such a wonderful question. I wish I had that kind of problem.
I mean, honestly, like, it's not really, like, it's a blessing, obviously, right? But, you know, then I think, like stereotypes are a gift and a curse, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Associate you being, like, tall and black with a certain stereotype. So let me tell you how that plays badly for me. I remember freshman year, I was in a math class, and I was pretty talkative in that class. It was, like, pre-calc. I had taken like calc honors or whatever in high school, so I already knew all the material. I just took it again because I let the basketball team choose my classes because, again, left it all to them. That's the system that you submit to. And I remember this one kid, like I was just talking, and his kid goes, you know, some of us actually didn't come in here on an athletic scholarship. We had to, like, you know, work our way in here. So, like, you know,
was he a white boy?
Of course,
100%. 100%.
And it was just kind of like, to me, it was like, okay, like, first of all, there is no athletic scholarships at D3, so you're wrong, number one. Number two, the reason I'm talking is because I already know the material. I have one of the highest grades in the class. You can ask, I mean, tell you he used to get all his like homework help from me. Will also tell you. Will also tell you. I'm dropping first and last names here. Hopefully they don't.
We can bleep that. We can bleep that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, so that's kind of like a negative, I guess, because you get people that think that they know
more
your
than
whole
you.
story. Like I would get people that would like just assume that they knew like my history. Like they would just, you know, like for instance, like people would always like talk to you about like your mom. They don't want to like ask about your dad because they would assume that your dad's not present or something.
Dang.
You get a lot of that. Like I noticed like, you know, like a lot of older folks would never ask me about my dad. They'd always be like, you know, like, so you live with your mom? And I'm like, I live with my parents, like parents, both of them, you know. It was just a weird thing.
That's crazy. I've never
That is
actually
very
thought about that
interesting.
before.
Yeah, no, I've never had someone talk to me. Oh, like, do you live with your mom? Like, I've never experienced that, but like, that's quite a cool observation that you had there.
Yeah, I just like noticed a bunch of stuff like that, and I'm not saying like it ever really offended me or bothered me because, like, I got bullied a bunch when I was a kid, so I came to understand how people just sort of like think, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and people like, you know, that's the negative of stereotypes, right? Like, you can kind of use them to sort of suss things out, like, you know, very surface level, but you shouldn't go with it as if it's like law, you know? It should maybe mentally prep you for how things could go or how things could turn out. But a lot of
how
people,
to handle a specific situation.
Exactly.
That could be
if it arises, though, not just going in assuming that is the situation.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
That makes sense. So
actually, I think that's something that a lot of black people in PWPIs deal with. Like when you're the only black person in the class and you feel like you have to prove yourself. You know what I mean? That kind of environment, not to be looked down upon or like for them to have assumptions about you that you're just here from affirmative actions and stuff like that, which doesn't apply to international students, by the way. But
actually,
you know,
that's one of the things that I always used to. So like, I consider this for like I used to work in I guess it was kind of like admissions, kind of. And one of the ladies there was like explaining to me how like, hey, if you don't make a certain amount, here's what we can do for you financially if you're like a certain, like if you're from like a disadvantaged
demographic
group. Yeah, here's what we can do for you. And I was looking at like you know, they act like affirmative action, like, you know, it's not a joke, like they actually lower the standards in some cases for people who are disadvantaged, people from lower income brackets, who most people are automatically associating that with like straight up being black. But in reality, like if you're an immigrant family of any race and you make under a certain amount, you're going to have an easier time like getting into schools. That's it. Now, anyway, one of the interesting things I found is that like a lot of schools, especially PWIs, fill their like Black American quota by getting like African students, like people who are like, you know, not from.
So we can pay the full school fees.
Yeah.
Well, not even like that you can pay the full school fees though, but just people who I think are like, how do I put this? Like people who don't necessarily, I think, what's the right way to like describe it, you know? So for instance, I had a colleague tell me in school once that like Africans come to this country and benefit from all the things that Black Americans fought for, like affirmative action.
Yeah.
And so I think the point she was trying to make is that like affirmative action benefits us because society sees us as like, oh, you're black, which means all these things. In reality, like, you know, I think most Africans who like came, like whose parents came over from Africa don't necessarily have the same kind of situation financially. Like for instance, like Nigerian immigrant families, I think they are the third highest earning family in America on average.
We'll fact check that. Don't worry.
No. Fact check it because it's either third or first. It's one of the two. Like it's actually.
Yeah, we're the highest. I think we're the highest earning immigrants.
The highest earning immigrants, which to me was like that's shocking. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, you know, by the way, you know, I mean, that's Nigeria, you know. We have to do our thing.
We do what we do, baby.
You know what I mean? But at the same time,
oh my gosh.
But at the same time, you know, do you give that person affirmative action the same way you give like someone who grew up, their people have been in America since slavery, right? And they experienced like Jim Crow and the legislation of the 50s, 60s, and 70s that disadvantaged them and disenfranchised them.
Yeah, the heritage
further.
comes from that.
Exactly. Do you give us the same opportunity that you give them? Does that make sense? Are we taking slots that necessarily should be filled by them? I don't know. But anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because the whole thing with stereotypes being tall and black on campus, it was cool for sure. Definitely had some people that were totally into me just for being tall. I remember there was like one individual who I'll never do this again. But I'll never do this. I don't know because it could be a woman. I'm just gonna call them. I don't know.
Continue.
But the point is,
Deb, okay.
They thought I was a prince in Nigeria.
Oh
like
my
those
God.
those stereotypes,
Uh-oh.
they worked. They worked in our favor. They did.
I'm done, man.
But I'm saying there's a negative to stereotype, there's a positive.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that was kind of cool because it's like you're treating me like royalty, and like I feel like a king. My friends call me king, so you're not wrong, but you're not right either.
Prince in my house.
There you go. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, the stereotypes are interesting.
All right, let's go into like your interactions with women in WPI, right? Obviously, this is more like just T-sick and things like that, right? But did this stereotype also play with your interactions with women in WPI, where like you were finding that people were just like flocking towards you because you were like the tall basketball kid, and how did you handle that at the time?
I think
not all of us can be on the basketball team. Not all of us can experience that. So break it down for us.
I mean, I feel like, reality, I think like the soccer guys had a lot more juice than we did, like the basketball. I mean, for sure. Like if you talk about at WPI specifically, like the basketball, I mean, like if you're a basketball player, like just from an intangibles perspective, you're going to have qualities that are sought after from women, I think, right? Like you're tall, you're athletic, right? That's a good thing, right? Soccer players are usually a little bit shorter. But I thought that they tended to do a little bit better. Now, for me, did the stereotypes play into it? I probably thought I had more game than I actually did in college. I really
think most men do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look back on it and I'm just like, I don't think a lot of it was game. Like, I think a lot of it was just like, women deciding like, yeah, like I like him, whatever he says, if it's cool or not, I really don't care. Yeah. But, I think as far as people knowing who I was, it was helpful because I don't remember like walking up to someone and having them just straight up not know who I was. But like you're also huge, and if they didn't know who I was, they probably thought I was like someone else. Yeah. And that was also an easy icebreaker because they'd be like, "Oh, I know you from class." I'm like, "No, it's not me." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Then they're apologetic, and then you just take the conversation and go from there. But I don't know. Like I think stereotypes just made it a lot easier to interact with women, with everyone really.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this recurring theme that always comes out on this podcast, and I wanted to get your opinion. Like someone like Peter, right? He came here, like kind of like similar, but like he said, he's for the people. He's for the whole world. He likes to experience different flavors and things like that.
Every color of the rainbow.
No, that's what I said. I said that I don't discriminate. That's what I said. I didn't say I want to experience the whole fucking world like that. I just said I don't discriminate. There are two different things. Okay, please.
Okay.
Misinterpret me.
Okay, no wahala. But Obi, now I'm asking you, Niger boy to Niger boy, right? From your experience, do you think you tend towards a certain group of people in terms of like your preference, or are you also like, I don't discriminate, I don't really care, it doesn't really matter that much?
I feel like I've gone through seasons. I think in high school, I was definitely kind of more after black women. I think in college, it was kind of a mix, really. Relationships wise, I think I've probably dated in my adult life. I'd say it was like, probably more white women in my adult life I've dated. And when I say date, I think a lot of people think, oh, like we're girlfriend, boyfriend. No. I mean, like, I'm not seeing anyone else. We're trying to see if our mindsets make sense. And a lot of that, to me, just comes from the fact that, personally, I don't really look for things. Like, I'm not, like, a hunter in that way. So, like...
You're not a hunter.
Like, not really. Like, in college, for sure, yeah. Like, like, the hunt, whatever the hell they call it.
His eye was open.
In college, it was, like, kind of like the thing to do on the weekend, right? Like, oh yeah, like let's go chase.
It was college.
Yeah, but like when you're working, it's weirder. It's like, can't talk to anyone from work, right?
Yeah.
Then you're talking to people that you meet out at bars. Personally, I hate meeting people at bars. I think it's a terrible place to meet someone. But so like I'd be like on Hinge, and then it just comes down to personalities, right? I've had a lot of people tell me that I don't seem black, both white and black people. So
white and black people.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, pretty much everyone has always told me that like I don't seem like the typical black person. I don't know what is the typical black person.
I mean, the typical black person is Nigerian, statistically speaking.
There you go. You know what I mean? But I've had lots of people tell me that, and I'm like, all right, well, okay. Don't know what that means. But if I take what they say to be true, then I imagine that I'd probably attract women who are like not looking for the typical black person, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that plays into like sort of like the relationships I've developed. As far as like what I pursue, the last time I really pursued a girl was like senior year in college, and that was more because I genuinely felt like comfortable around her, like felt comfortable being vulnerable and all that, and I don't think skin color played a role into it. I think it was more so that like she was a stranger to me, so like I didn't really care if she knew my demons or whatever, because at the time it's like you're a stranger still, so if I tell you whatever, then it doesn't matter. And like when she found out about all that stuff, it didn't matter to her, and that made me feel very comfortable. Before that, I hadn't dated in 4 years. I had a girlfriend prior to that, and that was like freshman year, and that was kind of like a interesting situation. And yeah, so I think generally speaking, I think you should definitely not care color wise. I really don't think you should, because I think that's kind of like one of the least informative ways to suss out whether a person is going to be right for you. Like you could be Asian, black, white, whatever. It's really about who makes you feel comfortable, who makes you feel like you can like be yourself or whatever. And I've found that with people from every single race. That's my
man. That kind of makes sense that you say that, because you said, you alluded to in the beginning, like if they bring all your friends together in one room, it's just like, bro, what the hell? Like,
I love that you guys are so like accepting and stuff like that. But when I say it, I get that.
Let me put it like this, right? Let me put it like this. Peter's situation is a bit different.
How's my situation different?
Do you want me to break down why your situation is different?
Why's my situation different?
Let me put it like this, right? Peter grew up in Nigeria. Black women all around him every day.
Yes.
It's one thing if you're like, okay, I'm for the world, it is what it is, right?
Yes.
But then you pick the one Asian girl in class to crush on. That's where it started from. The one Asian girl in class to crush.
But Tiso, I've crushed. No, Tiso. Let me rebut to that. Let me rebut to that.
Rebuttal.
Yes, I crushed on the Asian girl. So fuck what? She was also a
It's
pretty.
bad.
She was also a pretty girl. Let's be honest. Let me be honest. Myself. She was a pretty ass girl.
Obviously.
But all
Like,
through
you
my
like that.
secondary school and primary school, all the other girls I was crushing on were black. Every
I mean,
single one of them were
We haven't
Nigerian.
but the problem is we
100%
haven't really heard those
Nigerian.
stories. Okay,
So
we fast forward to WPI.
Statistically
Let's-
speaking,
let's fast forward to
I've liked more
WPI.
black girls than any other race.
I also think
All
that
of-
one thing that people don't like, people don't realize this, right? Like, girls have, like, girls that are quote unquote desirable. I don't care what race you're from. If you are an attractive girl, you're an attractive girl. You have your pick of the litter. It's just a fact.
That's facts. Yeah.
So if you're at WPI and you're an attractive black woman, you are a unicorn because there are not that many black women to begin with. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, first of all, you have to, like, she has to like you for you even to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
So
But
if she
you have to
doesn't,
impress her for her to be interested.
exactly. Do you know what I mean? So, and this is not about like having like a lack of beautiful black women or having like a lack of anything, because the fact of the matter is, at WPI specifically, I think there were probably like, I don't know, maybe 20 to 40 girls that like everyone was like, you know, oh, I'm interested in her. You know what I mean? Like probably like 20 to 40 girls that people were like, oh, like who's she talking to? Like I want to talk to her, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And like outside of that, like think about how many other girls went to that school that people just were never interested in, regardless of race. You know what I mean? So I think for like when I think about it from that lens, it's like a lot of it has to do with also you find your type, and it turns out that she's the only one of her there, and everyone else wants her, so now she gets her pick of the litter. Now, in a lot of cases, I know the guys that would win out in those situations, and they were not me. They were not. And I'll leave it at that. You know,
I mean,
Take
honestly,
your-
I'll say,
you take your L and move on.
I'll say the same thing applies to guys too, though. Like in the
Of
same breath,
course.
like obviously there was.
I feel
more
it
guys
depends
in
on the
WPI
ratio,
than
though.
girls, too. Wait, hold on.
I feel it depends on the
sorry.
ratio.
Like there was also more guys in WPI than girls, right? So obviously, just based on a numbers thing,
Supply and demand.
yeah, supply and demand. The girls are in charge. If you go to an HBCU where there's
Yeah.
generally more girls than guys, and I would argue there's more beautiful women there than there are in WPI. Even the average guy is already bagging like bro, like,
5 of them playing cards.
Man, I remember because like, first of all, the genius of the WPI kids. I remember when I got there freshman year, these guys had invented a scale. I was mind blown by this. They said
Ew.
if you see like a person at WPI, boy or girl, and you think that they are at WPI, you think they're like an 8. You have to do this equation to figure out what they are in the real world,
Not an
because at
equation.
WPI there's this thing called the goggles.
Yeah,
And it's the
yeah.
whole concept that like when you only see like a certain level of caliber of person,
Yeah.
like you adjust. You
Yeah,
just do.
yeah. I've seen a lot of guys discuss that. Actually, true.
So I think it was something like
I
it was
never
like
heard
you
that.
square
Never heard of that, yeah.
you square the number and then you divide it by 10, I believe. So for instance, like if you square 10 and divide by 10, you're still at a 10. So if you see a real world 10, it's a 10, right?
Yeah, yeah.
let's
So,
say
but if you get
take
like a 7,
yeah,
right?
you square
that's
that,
like a 9, 4.9.
Exactly. In real life, which is like a 5. So it's
That's-
basically
Yeah.
you take away 2. And like these, like, and I'm doing the math, and I'm like, yo, you guys have really thought this through. Like, this
Yeah.
this is like this equation actually holds. I thought that was pretty funny, but yeah.
That's kind of school we went to, you know. So I mean, so the way I say it is more like, I think in every situation, depending on where you find yourself, there's always going to be that supply and demand, right? Like, and there's going to be like whoever is at the pinnacle. It just depends on the timing, where you are in life, and things like that. But I don't know. The thing about pizza, right? The thing about pizza, right? Let me go back to pizza. I'm not coming for pizza, like obviously. This is
No,
not,
come,
honestly.
come,
Let me
come.
be honest. I just like giving pizza a hard time. Let me actually be
Okay.
honest. Let me not be like I'm just picking on this boy. But the thing is, I was genuinely scared for pizza in his freshman year. Cause like, bro, this guy was the epitome of stereotypes. Like he stereotyped black women hard, and it wasn't his fault.
No,
Yeah, that was it. I'm saying it was
Okay,
his
okay,
fault,
okay.
to be
Yeah.
fair, right? He told
Okay.
the story of going to high school in Florida, meeting all the African American girls.
Like
all
I
of
was,
them
like
just
the only 6 African American, like I could count them on my hand how many African American girls were in my school, and I went to a private military school, and they were all from Florida. Florida, black girls. Shout out to them, though. Shout out to them.
Yeah, so in his head, he was just like, yo, because of that, the experience with them wasn't that great. So that was the mindset Peter carried with black women. So in my head, I'm just like, bro, how can you not like black women? You know,
I never said I don't like them.
No, so it's like he said that he didn't like them, but you can see the people that he was turning towards was always like, I'm like, bro, like these girls are not like.
I think that's something that.
Yo, Chisom, let me say this. Let me actually say this. Freshman year, I didn't go out. I didn't do anything freshman year.
Yeah, uncle.
Sophomore year is when I came to the BSU.
That's what I'm saying. Like at the end of the day, we brought this guy home.
No, I brought myself home.
We
Stop
brought
saying
him back
that you
home.
brought
We're
me.
just like, you know what, Peter, come back home. Yeah, the prodigal son that returned.
Yo,
It is what it is.
Stop,
Come and see what
stop,
beauty
stop.
actually is. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, everyone is beautiful. I just like giving Peter a hat out with this thing, with this topic.
I think like one of the things that people don't like to talk about is, I mean, or maybe they do talk about it, people just don't like take ownership
Acknowledge
or whatever.
it.
Yeah, but you know, I think a lot of people go through trauma as it pertains to like you're first getting rejected by a woman. You know what I mean? And like whatever she looks like or whatever, you know, you just paint a bad picture. Like so for instance, like if you got rejected, you know, and this is high school, right? High school, like middle school. Girls were mean. Like, you know what I mean? Girls were not
Girls
that
were
mean.
bro.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know that. And there's a whole show called literally Mean Girls, right? Girls were mean in high school, like middle school. Girls were mean.
And they were
so
the
like
ones in charge too, because all of us
and the thing is, like, it wouldn't just stop with you. Like, you would like ask her like to maybe to prom or whatever, and she would reject you. Then tell like everyone else, like
oh
how
my
you
God,
had
bro,
the
that happened to
audacity
me.
to ask me.
Yo, that
do you know
happened
who
to
I? You know what I
me.
mean? Like. Girls were so mean, and like I think a lot of guys like didn't really know how to
Process
like,
that.
analyze it, yeah.
process that, and so like when they get older, it's literally just straight up trauma. Like if you were shot at when you're a kid and you hear a loud bang, you're probably freaked out when you hear a loud bang, right? And so if the first girl to reject you was a black queen, when you see another black queen, you might cower a little bit. You might be a little scared to approach them.
I'm not scared of approaching black girls.
Listen, man,
I'm from Nigeria.
I'm not saying that's. I actually never
I'm not
said
scared of.
that
I'm not
that's
scared
the
of
case.
approaching African women. Let me
Listen,
say
That's what I was
that.
about to say. I was
Yeah.
I'm not scared of
Yeah.
approaching African
Clarify.
women.
Peter,
I'm
like, I
scared
don't
of
think
approaching
really wants
American
for,
women.
like, African
Nah.
American women like that. You feel
Listen.
No.
Listen.
I'm scared of approaching African women. I mean, American women in
American.
general. But African women, I
you
can
mean
approach
American
them.
women or black American women?
American women in general.
Cap.
Actually,
American
yeah,
women.
that's
Come on,
false.
bro,
Peter,
stop
don't
it,
lie.
stop it, stop it,
Peter, don't cap. Peter,
Don't
let-
lie.
the thing is that I was
Peter, don't
helping you
do
before,
this.
like, say I'm giving you a
Don't.
hard time, but let's not cap.
You guys,
You're not
just
really
dug your
like-
own grave.
You guys.
That's cap,
Don't
bro.
do this.
How's that count?
You're afraid. You're afraid to approach Sarah, bro. Sarah.
Who's Sarah?
Come on.
You're afraid to approach Sarah, bro.
Who is Sarah?
Any girl named Sarah, bro. Like
Any
you
girl.
know,
White
basic,
girl, obviously, like,
Becky,
come
you're
on
afraid
now,
to
you know
approach
Becky.
Becky, bro. Becky,
Peter, don't lie.
Becky scare you, bro.
Come
Becky,
on now.
Yeah, you guys
Come
are
on.
wild for this.
Becky's
shit,
scary,
man.
bro. Becky, not
I have
scary.
no comments.
Becky doesn't scare you at all.
I feel the what?
I'll
the
name
Fifth
drop if
Amendment.
you want me to.
Nah,
Name
don't
drop
do that.
Who
Don't
do you
do
have?
that.
Who do you have? Name drop them.
Oh,
We'll
you're
discuss
asking
after.
again.
We'll discuss after.
Yo,
Oh wait, do you know someone?
I know
That's what I'm saying,
plenty.
like Peter, you're not afraid to approach a certain group of women. Let's be honest. But
Okay.
and I'm also saying, I guess you're just because of you. I guess the way your life is set up, your game also kind of works more for a certain demographic. of
What
people.
the fuck, my game? What the? This is an interesting
Looking
topic.
like all these.
No, I mean the thing is, bro. Like it's a true state. I have a friend, and he literally told me for a fact. I'm like, because I asked him. He's tall, black, just like me. I'm like, dude, you don't really date black women too much. Like, why? And he's like, yo, my game doesn't work on them. Straight up. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, my game doesn't work on them. I'm like, okay.
Well,
Respect it.
I know my game
Respect
works
it.
on black women because I've had black women at WPI.
American.
But not American, but
Well,
African.
well, let's talk about African women.
I mean, African associated with America, which is, you know, first generation African American. That's what I was to say. You know?
I don't
Honestly,
know.
honestly, the truth is that I honestly don't know how to approach, like, realistically speaking, like like, if they're African related, like they have like some connection to Africa, I feel comfortable approaching them. But if they're African American, bro, I don't even know what to. I'm out. I'm like, yo, help me. I'm like trying. I'm like, bro, what do I even talk. Actually, that's not true.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not true.
I got a girl Snapchat on the plane and she was African American, full on African American. So what am I saying? That's actually cap. You guys are making me confused right now with your agendas. All right, putting propaganda in my
Bro,
head.
you don't know yourself. Simple.
You guys are making me unsure. All right, I can approach anyone. It's just that, statistically speaking, I've not talked to that many African American women.
To be honest, though,
But
like
black women,
it is. I like
when
the
you
way
say
people
black women, what are you saying? But like black women,
like
or
in
African
general,
American?
like black can be Caribbean, African,
okay.
you know, from Europe, from fucking
Yeah.
Asia. But as long as their
Yeah.
skin is melanated, I
Yeah.
can talk to you.
let's just say this, right? At the end of the day, right, there's a looks factor, there's a personality factor, right? There are people that
Yeah.
you wouldn't even want to approach once you hear one or two things. So like, I like the way Peter really try to defend himself. Yeah, honestly, the simple solution for you was just more like personality difference. It is what it is. You don't have to over-explain. Like for me,
Cultural differences. Cultural
I was saying,
differences.
like for me, I know like where I thrive, and I know where I'll just be like, bro, like when I'm around white people, like maybe because I'm a people person, I can adapt, but it takes a different level of energy for me, and I'm just like, bro, I'm tired.
I was
You know,
I was literally the only black person in my private school, so I have to adapt by force.
No,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about like, obviously I have like a lot like white friends that I play football with and things like that. But I'm talking about like in a social setting where like they're drinking beer, they're listening to rock, things. I'm just like,
Oh no. I'm
that's
out.
like this is
I'm
just
out.
not me. You get
I'm
what I'm
out,
saying?
yeah.
Like,
I
like
think
this is
it's
just not me.
And one of
So
the
it's like-
interesting things, man, is because people call this code switching. I love code switching. I'll straight up admit I think code switching is fucking awesome because I think people become more of themselves when they feel like you relate with them.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
true.
like one of the things that like I grew up, I used to act when I was coming up. Like I actually had the lead role in pretty much every school play. I did one Nollywood film, and I think it won an award. My aunt told me she could have been casting though. To be honest, she might have been casting. But I do remember going for the filming sessions. They had donuts. They put makeup on me. It was actually kind of funny. Anyway, so like I always like getting into character. Do you know what I mean? So like I rushed a freaking fraternity, and it was not like a historically black fraternity. Like there was no way.
That's
I was
true.
in
You
there.
did.
Yeah, and it was like I think one of the things is like it taught me to appreciate the culture like that other people have, whether I agree with it or not. You know what I mean? Like, like for instance, like frat boy culture is like it's like rowdy, a lot of like.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
there's
rowdy.
certain
It's like good energy. It's good. I think it's good brotherly energy for the people that subscribe or need that kind of energy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was cool for me to experience it. Like
I would say this. I don't think all white culture is the same. They have
course
their
not.
own intrinsic, unique things.
Yeah.
Frat bro culture was never for me. I never joined a frat. I never enjoyed the concept of frats.
Yeah.
But there are some cultures within, being nerdy, watching anime, all those kind of culture. They're associated with a certain demographic of people, usually not black, even though there are black people in those communities. But it's a small segment of them. And like I'm cool with hanging out with people like that. I don't care. Football, FIFA, in America is majority, Hispanics and whites that play that sport. And I'm cool with that. That's my whole point. It's like I have no problem with certain things. It's just certain types of things that I personally cannot associate with. Like country, I'm sorry, no. You know what I mean? It's not my thing.
I disagree. I mean, because the thing is, like, I remember there was a whole season for me where there was like, you ever heard of what the hell is the band called? Oh man, they
Lil
made
Nas
this song
X?
called no, because he's not really country to me. Like Florida Georgia Line makes some pretty good country music. Like Toby Keith does some good stuff, and it's like I would not have learned that if I didn't I wouldn't have even known that I like that if I didn't expose myself to like these other cultures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like the fact of the matter is, bro, like there is Afrobeats that I don't like. There is country that I definitely don't like. To me, I'm a big believer in individuals. It's part of the reason why I don't like to like describe people as like, like whites or blacks or whatever, because it just takes away the individuality from people. And like, I think like, in this country, right, people of color have had their individuality stripped away from them. So I don't necessarily think that us flipping the script, and when I say
It's
us,
beneficial.
I mean literally us in this room, because I can't speak for I don't know how many people are doing this, but like I don't think it's beneficial for us to, perpetuated in the opposite way in describing people, because the reality is like I met like people that you would identify them as white, but they're Italian and they're way more like Africans than like their prairie counterparts who are also white and from like the Midwest. They just are. You know what I mean?
I mean, there are different types of
family culture.
Whites. There's the Scandinavian whites and there's the Italian whites. And there's also the British whites. They're all different types of whites.
I just feel like it's weird to like use color as opposed to like a better identifier, right? Like if I say you're black, like that's why I always got like kind of annoyed when people would be like the black community. I'd be like, how can you like say that we're all the same when like there's Jamaicans, there's Dominicans, there's Haitians, and we all do not have the same culture.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense for you to say like, oh, like the Haitian community. That makes sense because they're all
Obi, I will agree to you, but that comes with the context of American society. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. In the Jim Crow eras and like all through that history of what black is.
So do you
so regardless of where you come from,
do you think that was correct though?
I don't think that was correct.
So
but you have
why
to put
would
it in
we
context.
but like why would we put in context an era that was flawed foundationally?
I mean, but when your history is stripped from you and you don't know exactly where you're from, the only thing that binds you is that group identity of those sufferings that was laid down upon you as a community.
I mean,
but us,
I have issues with that. I just feel like there should be another way, another thing that you could like bond on as opposed to like suffering. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like even like Jews have suffering because of the Holocaust, but they also have the shared religion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is bigger than that.
Obi, I think it's very difficult for us as people who just came here, who don't have ancestry from that, past, to just say that, we should have a new word about being black because of like we have different I get that. It's a valid point.
Like before white people even came into the picture, do you think that you would have called yourself black? I'm just curious.
Guy, when I was in Nigeria, I had no concept of what black is. I was Nigerian.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
but guess what?
Why would
I'm not in Nigeria. I'm in America. They have their own customs and stuffs of thinking of things.
Okay,
do you think
if someone's customs and stuff you don't agree with, are you just going to like conform to it even if you don't agree with it? Because
you can debate on it, but that's the discussion. I'm just giving a valid reasons of why it is the way it is. I'm not agreeing.
I mean, I know why it is the way it is, but like if you continue to perpetuate the way it is, it's not going to change. Don't you want it to change? I
mean, I'll say this, right? When it comes to group identity, I think it goes back to what you were saying at the start with stereotypes. I think it's a pointer. It's an indicator that you can take note of, right? But at the end of the day, it can't be the full picture. For example, you're giving the example of the Haitian community. Not every Haitian is the same. You get what I'm saying? At some point, being identified with as a group, you're still going to feel like I don't belong like that. Some people might be like the Nigerian community. Like not every Nigerian is the same. Not every Nigerian speaks their language. Not every Nigerian likes even Afrobeat.
There are over 300 languages and tribes in Nigeria.
So the way I see it is this: the group identities, there's room for it, there's a space for it, but that cannot be the full story for that individual. You cannot take away the individual. Like for example, if I see Bole, she's a black woman, I can't be like, I know who Bole is just because she's a black woman, right?
Or I know her experience.
Or exactly, or if I say she's a Cameroonian, I can't be like, I know exactly who she is because she's Cameroonian. Now I can make assumptions. I can be like, she probably likes Afro beats. There's a fair chance I might be right. You know what I'm saying? She probably likes, I don't know, like Eru.
She's probably eating Cameroonian food.
Yeah, I'm saying like there's a fair chance I might be right.
Yeah.
But I can't be like, that is definitely right just from looking at her as what I've heard about her in like 2 minutes. Yeah. So that's the way I see it.
Because I feel like that's like, when we use words like, like blacks, whites, that kind of thing to identify a group of people, that to me gives credence for like some of the crap that we see happening with like police brutality and shit like that. Do you know what I mean? Like is a very slippery slope to me personally, because what stops someone from saying, blacks are, I don't like blacks, I don't really hang out with blacks because they're like this. Like that's basically what, like I think that speech is perpetuated on both sides. Unfortunately, one side has power, and so it results in oppression on the other side. Anyway, the reason why I bring it up is because when I think of like identity, right? Like, I don't think of Americans as like, like they're white. I think of Americans as like they probably believe in freedom for all, because that is an American ideal. Do you know what I mean?
But that's
like,
a group identity in itself, in fact.
yeah.
So
But that's like
Okay.
it's. But the thing is, like you, like for instance, if you didn't believe in freedom, would you live in America?
Yes.
I mean, some people do. Some
Some people do.
I can't imagine I mean, they probably believe in their own version of freedom for sure.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's pretty safe to say that like people that live here believe in like the values that are
Do whatever the
American.
fuck you want to do.
Be whatever, live how you want to live, say whatever the fuck you want to say, do whatever you want. Do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like our Muslim brothers and sisters in the Middle East believe in, the cultural norms that they believe in. You know what I mean?
Also in Africa as well.
Exactly. And so, the reason I say that is because I think cultural identity should be less about color and more about like what you actually identify, what beliefs like you believe in.
But that is
you
called the
subscribe
American
to.
experiment right there. Because that's only unique to America. If you're Chinese from China, you identify as Han Chinese, and also with the culture that is unique to China.
I don't think
But
it's
if
all
you're from
Chinese people that are Han Chinese though.
No, 95% of them are Han Chinese. There's 5% minorities, which are the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, and so on, right? But what I'm trying to say is that they have a group ethnic identity, culture. Also in Europe, the French, the Swiss, the Germans, the Spanish, the Portuguese have an ethnic culture that is related to their skin as well. If you see a black person in Europe saying that they are German, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Or if you see a black Chinaman, you're like, yo, that's interesting. Oh, you're Chinese and you're black. You understand what I'm trying to say? It comes to the American experiment is very unique. That's what I'm trying to tell you right now, and that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but to me, that doesn't necessarily. Like, for instance, I think the American experiment just kind of proves that your color has nothing to do with what you believe in or how you are as a person, right?
100%, 100%.
Because, like, Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Mm-hmm.
I feel he probably identifies more with Greece
Greek.
than he does with Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that's where he was raised. That's where he grew up. He speaks it fluently.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Ugo.
to me, that doesn't that's like proof that you can't really use color to
But-
like say,
but-
oh, like this is how this person is. It
But
just
you know the
doesn't work.
beautiful thing about Giannis, and I know his story.
Yeah.
His parents were not giving visa. He was not allowed to get the Greek passport until he was 18. So even though he grew up there, he speaks the language fluently. He thinks he's Greek. He believes in Greece. He wants to support Greek. The Greek society or the government during that time rejected him until he was Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was an NBA prospect that they wanted to bring to the US. That's what okay. There's still a lot of Greeks or black Greeks in Greece that are suffering because of their color. So I understand what you're trying to say, but you have to put it in context, if that makes
I
sense.
mean,
there's
there's
a neo-Nazi organization in Greece, for crying out loud,
Yeah,
that
and
wants to
I'm-
eliminate all immigration into their country.
And look,
Just saying.
there are those people that exist everywhere in pretty much every country. Like if you think about it, Nigeria, we went through a genocide where, like, the Igbos were persecuted because we wanted to have our own country, right? And we were persecuted, right? I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about that because anyway.
You are.
Yeah.
This is the Afro Journal, bro.
You're in America. You're in
No,
America.
like 'cause
You're safe.
there's
You're safe.
My,
No
my,
one
no,
will pause you.
my parents were telling me about this one journalist that got abducted. Anyway, the point is,
Okay. Don't worry.
there's
Yeah.
there how do I put this? Like, inequality. That's a given of the society we live in today because of the history that's been perpetuated, right? The victors get to tell history, right? And the people in power have opinions that have to be changed, right? And so we live in that system, and so you have to kind of, it's like, I don't know. I think of life as a game. Really,
Yep.
like
I think it's
actually-
It's intricate. There's not a right or wrong
That's the
answer.
dance.
It's a
Yeah,
dance. Exactly.
It's like
You just have to-
everyone's given like a certain hand of cards, and you
Yeah.
can decide to play the game,
How you want.
or you can decide to try to change the rules, or you could.
I mean,
decide
it goes
to
back.
not play the game.
I think it's one thing though. Like, we know let me say we know, but we think we have an idea of what ideal would look like, right? But at the end of the day, we know that we live in reality. Like, and it goes back to what you were saying before. Like, there are stereotypes. Some of them are negative. Some of them are positive. I use some of my positive stereotypes to excel in life. It is what it is. Some people might assume things about me. I'll just be like when I came to WPI, everybody thought I could play basketball. I was trash about absolute nonsense. I'd not probably not played basketball more than 5 times in my life at that point. You get what I'm saying? Everyone
Still
just kind of
trash,
asked. I'm saying, but what they did for me was when I went to the court to play basketball, people would pick me, just assuming I could play. They've never seen me play, but I get picked. God. And people that are better than me will not get picked. Obviously, when the game starts.
Yeah. Hey, part of that is again, but athletic.
All these things kind of work to your advantage, right? And then sometimes it works in the opposite fashion where campus police is stopping you, asking you for your ID.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You understand where you live in, you're smart. You have to make decisions and make sure you know that you don't live in an ideal society. But obviously you work to make sure that you don't also perpetrate those.
One more time.
Say it again.
Perpetuate.
Jesus.
It's okay.
Oh,
right,
we got you.
You guys understand the English, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. You're not doing the exact same thing that you're complaining about.
Yeah. I just final words on this. I think the beautiful thing is that life is a complicated thing, and I think what Obi says about individualism is important, but understand that group identity is also key in this world, and understand how it plays in your life and the lives around you, and be you can. I mean, you only have one life to live, so it is what it is.
I think group identity. I'll leave it on this. I think group identity only benefits those who seek to manipulate a large population. It's hard to manipulate
a large population. It depends on if you
identify as people, right? That's a group, right? But like
Obi, I would disagree with this because I think group identity can be important if you want to move something forward as well. I think it can be good or bad.
Influence so or manipulate a large population. That's exactly
but manipulating is negative, if that makes sense. Influencing is the right word I would say.
You could influence someone negatively for sure.
I mean, what I would say is, I think group identity is important to feel connection to something, right? So when I go back home to Nigeria, I'm like, okay, like I'm an Igbo man. My village is Nanka. I come from Orumba, not local government. I'm from Abeliba Nanka to be more specific. Those are groups, but those are subgroups. But that, at the end of the day, traces back to my actual family line. And then obviously it goes higher and higher and higher. And then it comes up to say, oh, I'm a Nigerian boy. You know what I'm saying? So like there's a good set of group identity that feels like I have a belonging to something. Now obviously the negative side would be like someone sees I'm Igbo and they don't want to give me a job because they assume that I don't know, I'm going to be corrupt or something. That's where it now becomes problematic, right? Or like you're like, oh nah, I don't date black women because all black women are ratchets. Something like that. It's like, bro, that's when the problem now comes to the surface, and then it now becomes complicated. Where there's a good side to it, but then there's a bad side to it. So how do you now find that balance? And that's $1 million question.
I just think that group identity is important, but I say individuality should come first at the end of the day. But I think group identity is important in terms of solving generalized ideas. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the bottom-top approach or the top-bottom approach.
Yep.
It's like both.
Yep.
You have to find
we had the whole argument about that last week. Yeah.
I think individualism.
All right, Obi, that was a dope conversation, but there's a huge part of you that we haven't talked about yet, and I wanted to break it down, talk about it a little bit. Obi, you also call yourself Akamai, right? The Spacerapper. He's a actor, engineer, basketballer, everything, and then he's also a musician.
Yeah.
How the music entered the picture? Where did that start from?
It started in the church, of course.
Like every great artist.
Exactly. I was in chorus as a kid, and also in school I was in a music group called Pals, and so I pretty much sang most of my formative years. And my dad tried to get us to take piano lessons. We went to this one lady's house. She was an awful teacher. She had no patience.
Was she Nigerian?
No, she could have been. I mean, she was so strict. She was so she just had no patience for non-excellence. And it was look, it's been a week. Obviously I don't remember where these keys are. They're not labeled in my house. In my house they're labeled. Here they're not labeled. And so but like, you know, we learned a little bit. And so like I got some kind of fundamentals down. And like up until I started playing basketball, actually, I was always doing like plays and chorus in tandem with basketball. That stopped because, believe it or not, because of Troy Bolton and Corbin Bleu.
Really?
Yeah.
From High School Musical?
Yeah, because I was doing both, and then people were like, "What the hell? You think you could just play basketball and freaking go sing in the choir? What do you think you're Corbin Bleu? Like, this is high school, yeah." And I was like, "Damn, I don't want to be like seen as a High School Musical person. That's so cheesy." You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even watch Disney growing up.
Social pressure did you like that?
Yeah, actually. So, you know, and then I went to college and I just stopped cold turkey. And I remember like the music teacher like at my high school like came up to I think he taught piano, but I'm pretty sure he also did chorus or one of the acting things. He told me, "Oh yeah, like I know that you used to act, like you used to be in PALS. Like why did you stop?" And I told him, he's like, "You should do it again." And I didn't because I just didn't. I was focused on basketball at that point. And then after, I mean, I always used to like to freestyle. Like, there's a video of me on YouTube somewhere.
We know the BYOB days. You know, bring your own bars. Obi used to drop some bars back in the days. You know,
I used to drop bars too. Here's
a cup.
But we did like in high school. We did a parody of Mr. Deshaun Raw, like the rap battle parody. That was pretty funny. And then I would just like to freestyle. I actually had a rap diss track put out about me, and I never actually responded.
Someone dissed you?
Yeah, he's another
You
artist.
didn't respond?
I didn't respond. Yeah, the thing is, I wrote out my response, and I looked at it, and I was like, I don't want to be that guy, so I just didn't put it out. I just, you know, I don't think it would have been fair. Not that I think that, like, would I have been able to deliver it the same way he delivered his? Probably not, but I felt in my heart that my words probably cut a little bit deeper, and I just because the thing is, like, I don't know how to, like, at that time I just, you know, I didn't really know how to do a diss track. Like, what is it? You know what I mean? Like,
niggas are savages.
I'm not a mean person. You know what I mean? I'm not like, no one knows me as a mean person, so I'm like sitting here looking at the lyrics, and I'm like, Obi, you're not mean. You're a nice guy. Like you know, people aren't intimidated by you. Like, people think you're genuinely a nice person. So it just didn't feel right. Anyway, fast forward, stopped playing basketball, and I started hanging out with some more people that did music.
I actually liked one of your songs. I used to ask Chisom and Bola.
You say actually like you're shocked that it was good.
No, I mean, let me be honest. If you were, you know, the most people I've seen their songs that I know have been difficult to handle. Listen to the ears. So when I heard yours, I was like, actually, this is a good song. I was like, okay, let me hear, because I think you did it on your story. That's where I heard it from. Yeah. And you said that it was your music, and I checked it out on was it on YouTube or Spotify? One of them.
It was probably one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, this is actually a good song. I used to work out to your song. I mean, I still have it on my playlist.
Okay,
it comes out here and there, but like I remember, I used to listen to your song like the whole time I was working. I kept it on repeat. It was really good.
This is a test for all artists out there. Watch this. What's the name of the song?
Let me search for it right now.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
remember it.
But he listened to it on repeat, guys. You know
no, it's the truth.
The thing is, pizza is actually bad with Dave. That's what it actually.
I just like to tease, because like I remember I would put out music like on SoundCloud, and like people would tell me, "Yo, I heard your music on Spotify. It's really good," and I'm like, "I have nothing on Spotify. What are you talking about?"
That's wild.
You know. It was kind of funny because I just find, because to me it's like I think they're trying to be positive, which is cool, which is a cool thing, but at the same time it's like, oh, you're kind of capping, but that's okay. Anyway, I mean, you don't have to look it up. It's all good.
Yeah, I feel the same way with the episodes sometimes, even though like maybe because I'm an optimist, so I always believe people, right? Where it was like, oh, yo, like your episode is dope, this or that. And then sometimes I want to ask, what episode did you listen to? But then 9 times out of 10, I know that they probably won't remember what episode you're talking about. Because you also forget that, like, I ever lucky forget some episodes that we record. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, let me not put them on the spot, you know? I'll just let them
to me, the cool thing about me, you can see the stream count. And I look at the streams. You know what I mean? I know for a fact that it was 16 streams yesterday.
Yeah.
And you said you listened to it today, and that number didn't go
No,
up. So
you should check. You should probably check one of your songs that was played a lot more than usual. I'm sure you probably remember. And that was me, nigga.
I mean, oh shit. Well, I appreciate
me.
that. It was probably forever, but anyway, yeah. What happened? So basically, I always knew that I liked music. I just didn't really know how to do anything with it. It's kind of like how you want to speak Spanish, but you don't know the language, and it was kind of like that. I want to make music, but I don't know how to do it. So a friend of mine from Clark, another artist, he gave me his old laptop. And I owe him a huge set of gratitude for that, because that to me was like the definition of paying it forward. And it gave me a Mac for the first. I never had a Mac before that. I always used to say, dude, I'm a PC, I'm an Android. Forget Mac, bro. I just didn't have the bread. That stuff is expensive. You know what I mean? Like a MacBook's like $2,000. Who has $2,000 to put into a laptop? You get a Windows for like $300. Anyway, so I got my MacBook. I literally haven't looked back. Everything is Mac around me now, by the way. I mean,
shout out to Mark, man. You know what's up.
Everything
you
is
have to
iPhone.
the same, man. You have to the same.
They just make a really good product. Anyway,
arguable, but it's alright.
They do make good products. Just they don't know what they're talking about, man.
It's alright.
It's okay.
I can't multitask on my freaking phone. I'm just like, bro.
You
What kind of products
you just
is
don't
that?
know how to do it.
This one is just a push boy. That's honestly the
Bro,
truth.
I'm just saying, man. Like Apple products, low-key, all the ones I've used, overrated. In my opinion, overrated. Like I expected the world when I switched to Apple. And I was just like, bro, what is this shit? Like it's very
not supposed
normal.
to give you the world. It's supposed to make your life easier.
That would be the world to me.
Bro, I don't think you understand. Like, by the time you screen share with someone on FaceTime, you'll understand what I'm talking. Like the thing is, it's the simplest stuff that makes it I can never not use it. Like, for instance, AirDrop, right?
AirDrop is nice. AirDrop is nice.
I am working on a project, and the engineer needs the project. We both don't have a cable. I don't have my hard drive. It'll just AirDrop. I'm like, you can AirDrop a 20 gigabyte file. They're like, yeah, of course, AirDrop. And it just works. You know what I mean? Like, and then the other thing is, I'm sure you've noticed this. Like, for some reason, like Android devices just do not connect to Bluetooth devices that fast. With Apple, it's
I don't know about that, bro.
Just finds the device.
Obi, when was the last time you used an Android? You're talking probably 2013, 2015.
No, I have a Google Pixel right here.
Boom.
And it doesn't work?
No, I still have service on. I mean, look, I used to fix phones. I have every single phone in the world. Trust me, I know about phones.
Okay.
I used all of Google's flagships. I still have the first Google, I still have the first the Nexus 1. I still have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's just a, they just didn't make that great of a phone.
Back to the music. Back to the music. You got your Mac.
Yeah, so thank you for remembering where I left off. So I got my Mac and I got out of a relationship. You guys were actually living with me when I got out of that relationship. I remember. Did I tell you guys?
Were you done before we were? Yeah. You were.
I definitely was done before you guys. And
No, Bole trying to relate.
I mean, we relate. Obi was my roommate.
Obi were roommates for the longest time.
Yeah, it was. So I got out of that relationship. I was making music before that, but one of the things that I learned is music. You're not gonna like it if there is an emotion behind it. Period. Point blank. You can say
what? Wait, say that again.
If there's emotion behind it?
If there isn't emotion behind it. And people, that's the genius of music. So the reason why I chose the name Akamai is because I think Akamai means genius in Hawaiian. Okay? Now, I don't think I'm a genius. I think I'm a very smart kid. I think I'm very open-minded and insightful. But I think music is genius because it's this art form where you don't have to know my story. You don't have to know where I am, but I can take you there. You don't have to know how I feel, but I'll make you feel it. You don't have to know what time period I'm from, but I'll bring you back there. Music can make you time travel. It can make you sad, happy. It can give you confidence to persevere. Yeah. Anything that can give you that without you actually having to be in front of a person or without you actually having to do anything other than just listen. To me, that's genius. And so, to me,
music is a very unique art form.
Yeah.
Because it's the only art form where you cannot actually see, but you have to listen.
I think you can see, though. Because the thing is, music will...
Well, physically, you can't see it.
I mean, if you close your eyes when you're listening to a song, if it's a song that's gonna move you, I probably think it'll evoke some imagery behind the lyrics
emotional
in your
imagery.
eyes.
I think that's like
Yeah.
we can agree upon that. But in terms of like art forms, is a unique art form in its way that you cannot actually physically touch it or feel it. You know what I mean?
You can definitely feel music.
Yeah, I say you can feel it. That's why I say it's a unique art
Yeah.
form the way you cannot actually touch and like physically touch and feel.
Yeah.
It, if that makes sense. But
Yeah,
in terms of
That's good.
it's an emotional that like it's like it's like a dance between chaos and order. That's kind of like how music is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you dance to that
I
wavelength.
think like I struggle to like put it in a box really, because like metal to me is chaos, right? But then
Yeah.
like the weekend to me is like angelic to some degree. Then like Masego to me is like holy. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's no box. I don't know. Like it's just
It's
like,
versatile.
yeah, like music is very much, it's like self-expression, and for me like it became kind of like a way of journaling. And so I just made songs about how I was feeling. I was super depressed for a while because I didn't know who I was. I realized I was dating someone for all the wrong reasons, and I kind of knew, but I didn't take any action about it. And I was kind of disappointed in myself for not taking action. I was dating someone for all the wrong reasons. That got me a little bit depressed, combined with where I was like located at the time. And then a lot of my friends were going through their own depression. And so it was kind of like this really weird place I was in. And I didn't really have people to talk to because a lot of my close friends were dealing with their own stuff. And talking didn't necessarily make you feel better. It just was like a thing to do. But making music did make me feel better. You know what I mean? Because it was kind of like, okay, like I put all that emotion into this, and now I don't have it to give anymore, And so that's really kind of where Bounce kind of came from. Bounce, I was like reflecting on a past relationship, not the one that like put me in that place.
Oh, that was
like,
the one I was listening to, Bounce.
Yeah.
That was the one I liked.
Yeah,
I just remember
Bounce.
it's Coco Bounce.
Yeah, Bounce is a great song. Shout out to Creeps. He's a Seattle-based producer, musician, artist, songwriter. He mixed it. He did a freaking phenomenal. I still don't know what he did to make that song.
Did you
go
private
crazy.
the song or something?
It's on Spotify.
I thought you removed it on some other websites.
I removed it on Spotify because I switched distributors. Like the other side of the music is like I love making music. The logistical side of it, like actually like is the reason I haven't been releasing. Like not just distribution, but like market. I haven't been releasing as much because releasing music just to release it without a fan base is kind of a waste of your time. Because you just don't have as much people listening to your stuff, which means you're not going to get out of it like at least the money to sustain yourself and keep going. And I want to get to a place where I can take care of all my responsibilities and make change in the world from my music.
From your music.
So it's like, that means I have to do a lot more kind of like, on the other side of it, not just the creation. So like creating music is probably the easiest part. Marketing it, creating a brand and all that. That's the hard part, but that's kind of why like I experimented with so many different like IG names. Like at one point I was Prince Obi on IG, then I was Akamai the artist, then I think I was like Space Parker, and now I'm the Spacerapper. And I think that like to me I just wanted something that would be like memorable. You know what I mean? And I think that that's pretty memorable because it's like, one, there's no underscores involved, there's no periods or anything like that. Two, a lot of people had trouble pronouncing Akamai when I would say it to people, and they'd be like, "How do you say that?" And I'm like, I hate having to explain.
I thought it was pronounced Akomi or something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking
yeah.
Akamai.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say it however way it makes you feel. You know what I mean? Like, I say Akamai in like all the songs. Like when I like say my name, I say Akamai. Because it rhymes with a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, so I actually just finished up an Afrobeats EP. But I call myself the Spacerapper because, I like music that disconnects you from like Earth. I always kind of felt like Earth was this kind of fucked up place where like there were all these like rules and like groups and like, you know, influences to make you feel like in order to be successful or to be whatever, you have to be a certain thing. And like people just don't feel comfortable being who they want to be. Even like you see it across the board, you know what I mean? It could be with regards to like, you know, you want to be an artist, but your parents want you to be like whatever, or society wants you to be this because society wants you to get a job in this field and pay taxes. Or it could be like I don't know, it could be anything really, but the whole point of space rap is like it's music that puts you in space. It disconnects you from Earth, and so the problems of Earth no longer apply when you're listening to the music. So you're just in a different place. And I hope that by going to that place, you can identify with your true sense of self and come back to Earth a better person. So the space rapper is like this astronaut. And he's just going to different places in space with the knowledge that like he's going to come back to Earth at some point, but he's leaving for now to go on this journey. And so Planet Africa is the first stop. And I did an EP. There's going to be an album, a companion to it. I don't know when that's going to be. I have all the beats, I think. But I haven't started like working on it yet because like, you know, there's a lot of lessons that I want to put into that project that I don't even think I've learned yet. But the EP is mostly just vibes because I think if there was a planet called Africa, it would just be vibes.
Be vibes.
Yeah, that's what
Straight vibes.
So that was
Good
the whole point
vibes.
of
That's all the
project.
Afro Journal as well.
Yeah, so that was the whole part of the project, and I actually just got the album art back from the creator today, which is cool. So I've got like 3 different pictures to go choose from. And I'm
Beautiful.
Yeah. So.
That was actually a dope description. Like when you were describing that, I don't know why. I don't know if you've seen that. I think it's the Disney movie Soul, where
I've watched it.
You've seen Soul, where like when they are playing their music and then they enter the zone, and it's kind of like they leave their body and go into space.
Yeah.
So when you were like describing that, that's kind of how it. That's like the image that came to my head. I was like, oh, that's actually very dope. They call it the zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, yo.
That's where I want the music to take you. The zone, space. I call it space because in space you're floating, and when you're floating, you're not. There's no attachments. There's nothing weighing you down. Like gravity weighs you down, but in like my metaphorical version of the world, gravity is like all these other influences that want you to be something that you don't want to be, and you just want to be. You just want to float. You just want to be left alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like when objects are left alone in space, they just kind of float there. And that's the whole point of the music. It should bring you there. And then from there, I think you can make like, you can chart a course because you're not being pulled anywhere. You're just there. Yeah.
Man, that was dope, man. So when are we expecting it to drop?
Right now I'm planning for May 4th.
May 4th?
Is that date symbolic to you or?
Not really. My real name is Obi. May 4th is like Star Wars Day, so like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I literally pulled that out of my ass. Like that's not something I think about at all. It's just like I'm saying May 4th because I logistically need 2 weeks to try and get like a Spotify playlist to pick me up.
Yeah.
So it takes like 2 weeks to like you want to give them at least 2 weeks to like pick it up. And if they don't, then you might want to push it because you do want to get playlisted in order to get some traction. So I keep pushing it because I'm really just trying to get like people to listen to it, like bloggers to write about it and stuff like that.
We'll definitely give it a listen when it drops and like promote it on here. You know, like I mean, our brother, and I think you're gonna change the world, man. Like from, I mean, like remember at the beginning when I said that Obi is this kind of guy that just kind of like talks about everything and he's just kind of like there and it's kind of like Loki just disappears and then when he reappears he can just have a discussion with any single person. You can see how this podcast episode went. We literally talked about his life, talked about freaking Microsoft Teams on Zoom, talked about why Google made some trash.
I mean he calls himself an intellectual.
Yeah,
he calls himself an intellectual for a reason. So
yeah, took us to space again with his, you know, the way he described his music and the reason for it. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of that. And I'm supporting the message. Like, makes so much sense, man. But Obi, thank you so much for joining us today, man. And there's one final question I want to ask you. You know, because you talked about your music and how you struggle with finding your identity and who you are. You felt like you just wanted to float and be in space. So who is Obi? Or who is Obi?
I said, I guess today Obi is Akamai. And to me, that means that I'm about my music. And I'm on a journey, I think, to figure out how far I can take this, because like part of the thing, I haven't even met my audience yet. You know what I mean? Like I have this idea that there are people out there that feel this way and they want to be liberated and like brought to space. You know what I mean? And I don't even know who they are, what they look like. So I haven't even met them yet. And like when I meet them, I'm sure like there'll be things that they inspire me to do. So it's just, this is like a creative journey for me, you know? Like Obi is a kid who was born to Nigerian parents that had a very interesting upbringing and is in the process of reinventing himself as an artist, you know? And, I think I am an artist already, but, you have to do a good amount of work to make other people see that. So I'm also going to be the first rapper with a music video in space. That's going to be dope as hell.
Period.
Yeah.
Oh, you heard it here first.
That'll be dope.
I love it, man. I love it. So where can we find you if we're trying to we're trying to reach out to you, if we're trying to listen to your stuff, if we're trying to slide in the DMs, where can we find you?
Instagram, I'm taking a prolonged hiatus. I'm actually going to delegate like someone to manage that page for me because I have an unhealthy relationship with social media.
Obi Akamai, Obiora, thank you so much for joining us in this week's episode of the Afro Journal podcast. We have this thing that we like to do at the end. We're just like, what's your journal entry for the week? It can be anything. Like literally, just imagine having a journal. What would you write inside this week? And we all like to answer it. So I can start with, Bole, I'll start with you then.
My
What's your journal entry for the week?
For the week is follow your passion.
Agree.
Right. I like that.
Chef
Ferrero.
I think my journal entry is that I think it's important to have your self-identity, but in the context of group identity.
Okay.
That's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah. For me, it's just a thing of figure out more ways to get more done. Because I feel like I'm also in this space where I feel like I'm doing a lot, but not really doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's like the space in my life I'm at right now. So it's like figure out a way to be more efficient and free up more time so I can actually do the things that I want to spend my time doing. So
Obi, your journal entry, please.
I think my journal entry is don't worry about what they say because they were usually told what they know and they didn't experience it from action.
Dream big.
I like that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Let's do the outro, man. Let's do the outro. It's been your boy. It's been your boy Shapiro. Another extra luggage. Rich boy. Chief
Rich
creator.
Broke ass nigga.
Chief
creator of the Afro Journal podcast. Straight facts.
I'll actually give him that. Like I'll not argue about this guy's actually like he's like the best editor of this podcast. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to be like Peter when I grow up.
Oh, damn. That's crazy. Don't be like you. It's your boy Peter Kitiki and Chibuzo Aliego Jr.
And it's your Cameroonian glazed chocolate donut. What do I call myself? The chief social media member of the Afro Journal. 100%. Y'all don't do shit on that shit.
100%.
First of all, I feel like my social media presence is actually the best, low key, but it's alright. Well, it's your, they call me the vintage chocolates, the toasted caramel, the elder of the Afro Journal, the one that keeps everyone working.
Not the elder.
She's of AJK. They call us the program, the project managers. Actually, that's what they call us.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. You can be the project manager.
I'll take it. Just of AJK, Jeremiah Okafor.
Guys, it's been Akamai the artist, aka the Spacerapper, aka Space Parker, aka I'm taking you to space. Signing out.
And we out.
All right.
We out.
See you guys.
Peace.